So at one point or another, chances are you've dated a man who was not best for you. Flat out the wrong man. And if we're being real, some of y'all watching this as we speak, maybe with the wrong man. Now listen, don't let that scare you from watching the rest of the video, because I need you to hear these things, all right? The reality is that this is common. Most women have experienced it at one point or another in their life. And there is what I would say a price people pay for being with the wrong person. And I think because we're not completely aware of what that price is, it creates a situation where more people are willing to overlook red flags and certain issues, thinking they can make it work, or normalizing certain unhealthy behaviors because they've been told, well, everyone does this, and not realizing it's a setup for disaster every single time. So I want to put into perspective what that price the woman pays is when she allows herself to entertain and be with the wrong man. Now, again, I always want to remind y'all, there are great men out there, all right? And there is a man that you can have in your life that's going to love, respect, honor you. But the reality is that you can meet 100 men tomorrow, 99 of them ain't for you. So the majority of men you come across will not be for you. Now, some people might say there is no right or wrong man. I don't agree with that. I think there is a right or wrong, especially if we're looking at it from the perspective of going to God about who's our best fit, so to speak, right? Who we can actually be in alignment with, grow with, and have success with. But if we choose to evaluate people based off our own understanding and perspective of things, typically we're gonna make some choices that aren't always great. Some people get lucky and survive and they go on to have great relationships. Most do not. All right. So let's get to some of the prices a woman pays. And one of the biggest prices a woman pays for being with the wrong man is losing herself. Now, we can make the argument that she has not found herself to begin with, which is what allows her to even be with the wrong man. Because when you don't know who you are, you don't really understand who fits into your life. Or even if we go beyond that, when you don't know where you're headed in life, purpose and things of that nature, you don't know who belongs on that path with you. So that creates a situation where we start picking and choosing individuals based off of other criteria that isn't as important as alignment, all right? And alignment starts with you knowing who you are and what you need to be doing. But let's just say you have a good idea of who you are. Let's just say you have a somewhat of a foundation. No one's perfect, right? And you get with this wrong man, let's just say, because no matter how great you are, no matter how much foundational work you've done, you're human. And as a human being, as a woman, you may have moments of vulnerability, moments where loneliness gets the best of you, moments where family pressure gets the best of you, biological clocks from some of your perspectives. There's various different reasons that a woman can kind of get caught up in, and it allows her to go away from maybe her principles and values and the things that she knows is best because she wants to accomplish having that relationship. And so now you get with this wrong man, so to speak, and because he's wrong, listen, it's never going to be what it needs to be. It might start off nice, but at some point it's going left. And even if it starts off nice, you're going to see red flags. You're going to recognize some things, but you might be able to live with it initially. But at some point, things are going to start to go left. Things are going to start to fall apart. And now what happens to a lot of women is, one, in either trying to keep this thing together from the beginning, she's trying to fit into a box she never belonged in. She's trying to be the type of woman she really isn't or isn't happy being because she wants to make him happy. And this becomes especially true when the situation, when the relationship starts to take some left turns. Because now in this anxious this desire to want to make it work, especially when you've already given so much time and energy. I always say it's very difficult for a woman, for a person in general, to walk away from an investment they've made emotionally, all right? And hell, for some people, financially and all kinds of other things. And so now, even though deep inside you know he's not really the right guy or the best guy for you, you're trying hard to get a return on your investment. You're trying hard to validate the decision you made to be with this dude. And so now, in again, trying to hold on to him or hold on to the relationship, it's not really him. Like, you're not really attached to him as much as you are attached to the situation, attached to the dream that you have of what this could become, attached to the hope of maybe kids, a family, all these different things. And in what's for some may be desperation of trying to hold on to that, you compromise yourself even more. And you dig an even deeper hole of, again, being something that you're not. But here's the unfortunate, or just the reality of it. You can't sustain that. At some point, the real you is going to come out. At some point, you're going to wake up and say, I can't do this. This is why, kind of a side note real quick. Whenever I hear on the internet people talking about how women could be married for years, wake up one day and want a divorce, and they use that to like attack the whole angle of why a man shouldn't get married and all this other nonsense, it irks me because I'm like, y'all really think this woman was cool for X amount of years and just one day woke up and said, I don't want to do this no more? That woman's been battling herself for years. That woman has had a desire to walk away from this long before that day that she finally said this is done. Now, I'm never going to rule out the possibility that sometimes this might actually be the case for some rare situations. I know as being a coach that for many years, over 12 years now, that's not what happens. That's not how it typically goes down, all right? And what I'm talking about as far as losing yourself, that's kind of what happens in some of these situations where the woman has lost herself and then one day wakes up like, what the hell's going on here? What have I become? What have I accepted? And now she can't do it anymore. So I'm not going to keep this point going because I got some more points to make, but understand that losing yourself is definitely a price a lot of women pay. And you got to be careful because for some people, it can take them a long time to regain themselves, all right? And we don't want that to happen because the longer you are not back in tune with who you truly are, the longer you'll be on a path that isn't truly best for you. All right, so another reason or another price women pay with being with the wrong man is you make yourself unavailable to receive the right one. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen situations where for various reasons, a woman gets into a relationship with a man that deep inside, because a majority of the time, deep inside, the woman knows this isn't really it, but I'm going to try to make it, okay? So she gets with this guy. She may not truly be happy, but she tries to keep it moving. And again, she's already given years. So at that point, it gets even harder to walk away. Some situations, babies might be brought into the picture. For some, it could go to marriage. We're not going to go that far. Let's stay before marriage, right? And then she, you know what? I have to bring up marriage even because what happens is she digs herself deep into this situation. And at some point in her life, a man comes along who she genuinely feels the connection with, who she's genuinely into, who makes her feel a way that her man, or I hate to say it, but it's just the truth, her husband doesn't make her feel, all right? And now she feels so tormented. She feels stuck. She doesn't know what to do. There's a part of her that wants to be with this man that makes her feel things she's never felt before. But the reality is it's hard to just walk away from where she has been, especially if we're talking about marriage. Then we add to the fact that there's the fear of the unknown. It's like, okay, how can I even trust leaving this situation, even if it's not marriage, even if it's just a boyfriend, right? How do I feel safe enough to leave this situation that I know, even though I know it's not that great, even though I'm not that happy, I know what I'm dealing with, versus walking into the unknown, especially with a man who makes you feel more vulnerable than anyone else does, which that in itself can be very scary. Hell, even if that woman is single, if she has been through some things already, being with that kind of man is going to be difficult regardless. But the point is, it just takes women off the market, so to speak. I hate saying it like that, but you know what I'm trying to get at. It takes her off the market. And so I'll have these situations where I've coached women, and let's say by the time they come to me, they're out of a relationship. And let's just use the example of she was in a relationship for 7 years. Let's say from the age of 23 to 30, she was in this relationship, dead end relationship, finally breaks free from it, right? And she's been 6 months to a year single. And she's like, it's so hard finding a good man. When am I ever going to find a man? I feel like I'm never going to find someone. And I'm like, you weren't available for 7 of the last 8 years. Like, you weren't even in a position to receive that guy. And Lord only knows if you met him while you were in that relationship, had to pass on him or chose to pass on him. And now you're saying, well, I can't find anyone. Put some perspective on this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to recognize you've only been available for so long. And even though you've been physically available, are you truly emotionally available? Because, let's face it, we talk a lot about men being emotionally unavailable, but it happens with women too. It's just, it looks different in a lot of cases. Because for the woman who's emotionally unavailable, it could look like a woman that says verbally, I want a relationship, I want love, all these things. But when it actually comes her way, she runs. All right. When she's required to put herself out there, she's like, nah, I ain't doing all that. That's too much. All right. Like, she's not really, truly making herself available and then wondering, why can't I meet anyone? Well, that's why. And so you got to be careful of not just making yourself actually unavailable because you're getting caught up in the wrong situation, but then what that does to you emotionally, how that puts you more into a place of fear with moving forward with other individuals. So again, it's happened tons of times. I was going to give a story, but we're going to leave it alone this time. All right. I'm just going to move on to the next point. All right. So let's keep this going. Another price women pay for being with the wrong man is adding on more trauma to heal from, or more baggage to heal from. So I kind of pointed out earlier where the reality is that for a lot of women, not all, but for a lot of women, the reason why they even allow themselves to get in a relationship with this wrong guy is because they have things they need to heal from. And that lack of healing causes them to look at things differently, to be afraid to be completely vulnerable. So they kind of choose a guy who is acceptable enough to be with, but doesn't really take them there. Like I gave an example in a previous video where once a woman's been hurt, let's just say the guy that hurt her, her feelings for him were at a level 10. And so now she consciously or subconsciously chooses men who are no higher than a level 8, so to speak, because that makes her feel safer. It makes her feel like, all right, I won't fall too deep into this. But then the problem is you're getting with a man you're not truly into, and the foundation needed to have a successful relationship is not there. All right. Now, again, some people have gotten away with it. I just saw a TikTok the other day of a woman. She must have been, I don't know, 70s. And she talked about how the man she married, she wasn't in love with him. What love got to do with it? And she just made that choice. But for her, I think they got married like in their 60s or 70s. So she may have had more reason to feel like, all right, I can pull this off for the rest of my life. But you try to do that when you're 20, 30, even 40, and you guys spend the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years with this person, and there's not that strong foundation there, that most people won't even make it that far. Most at all, not even close. All right. So with that said, you get with this man who isn't truly for you, isn't best for you, doesn't truly make you happy. And what's inevitable now is more issues will arise one way or another. Because in that example of women who choose the quote unquote safe guy, again, level 8 guy, level 8 or lower, the mentality a lot of times is, well, this guy won't cheat on me, because she's essentially dating down in most cases. And she figures, okay, he's grateful to be with me. He's lucky I'm with him. He won't cheat on me. And then it's the same dude that ends up cheating on you. But it's not simply because he's a man that he cheats on you. You got with a man that you can never truly pour into in the way that he needs, nor can he pour into you in the way that you need. All right? Which creates a void. And that void, again, can only be ignored for so long. And for many people, we're not arguing right or wrong right now. We know it's wrong. For many people, it will typically lead to some level of infidelity, plain and simple. All right. And so, whether it's infidelity, whether it's people getting verbally abusive, whether it's narcissism rising up or narcissistic like traits rising up in the relationship, whatever it is, more hurt is added on to the woman, to both sides, really. Okay. But we're speaking to the women right now. So, more damage is added to the woman. So, by the time she gets out of that relationship, she now has whatever she didn't heal from before this guy, plus what has happened now with this guy. All right. And I feel the need to say is one of those hitting my spirit moments. It can go beyond what that guy does, because sometimes you'll have a situation where a woman feels like God somehow led her into this relationship. Like, I've had women say to me, well, if this was the wrong guy, why did God let me cross paths with him? And to that, respectfully, I say, just because God let you cross paths doesn't mean you're supposed to be with the man romantically. Doesn't mean he's the man for you. Sometimes things happen in this coincidental timing. And I know we say that everything happens for a reason, but that doesn't mean the reason meant be with him romantically. It didn't mean you had to cross lines with him sexually. Like, that's not what it automatically means. And sometimes there's this habit of people to jump to their own conclusions and their own assumptions, and now a bigger mess is created. All right. But then, because it still came from a perception of God led me to this, now the hurt is not only towards that guy you just recently dealt with who wasn't for you, but now you have hurt and resentment towards God. All right. And so now there's a disconnect there as well. And so now we're just continuing or expanding the negative cycle that all stems from being with the wrong guy. So it's just one of those things you have to be careful. And that's why healing is so important, because healing will help break the cycle. Healing will I don't want to say 100%, right? Because nothing's 100%. But it's going to make it really difficult for you to overlook red flags and not address them. It's going to make it very difficult for you to ignore when you know this guy isn't for you, but you try to find a reason to be with him. When you've healed, you see things a lot clearer, and you see the dysfunction a lot quicker. All right. You pick up on things, and your ability to tolerate it becomes very diminished. It's almost like if you've been eating bad your whole life, eating bad tomorrow doesn't affect you. You go clean for the next 30, 60 days, whatever, then you have that bad food again, and your body feels it more than it ever felt before, because you got clean first. And now you feel the negative effects of those things. Same thing happens emotionally and mentally when it comes to healing. When we clean ourselves, when we heal ourselves, we feel the negativity more, and we become less tolerable of those things. And so that's why it's important you do what you need to do. If you need assistance with healing, please get my book, Love After Heartbreak. Go to loveafterheartbreak.com or click the link in the description of the comment section. It gives you the exact steps to healing from everything, relationships, parents, you name it, because all of it is needed to in order for you to truly break that cycle and find peace. All right, so I know it's been a lot. Hopefully you're still with me. All right, I know it can be a tough pill to swallow for some of you, but again, you need to hear this. It's important. And this is information I want you to pass down to friends, family, daughters, you name it, because everyone needs this, okay? But another price women pay for being with the wrong man, and I kind of already alluded to it, is becoming hindered spiritually, okay? So again, as I mentioned real quick, sometimes women or people attach their disappointments and their failed relationships or relationships that did not go the way that they wanted to, they attach it to God. Why did God do this to me? Why did God set me up for this? Why did God allow this? And because of that perspective, it creates a disconnect with God. And now there's less of a trust with God. There's less of a willingness to go to God, right? And that can lead to detaching themselves in other ways, because now there just becomes more of a separation with them and God. It's almost like being mad at your parent and you just don't want to be around them anymore. You just don't want to talk to them. You don't want to hear from them. So you dodge them, you ignore them, you find other things to distract you, but you don't want to go to them. And that becomes a problem. That becomes very unhealthy and can create other problems going forward in your life. But I think also when it comes to disconnecting you spiritually, I think we have to understand that everything is connected in the sense that if you're not taking care of your body, right? If you're not feeling good, you're always tired or you're always depressed, it's really hard to walk in faith, to trust God, to do all these things, to think positively when you're feeling like crap from within. All right. And whether that be the things you're putting in your body, the food, the things that you're drinking, whether that be the content that you're consuming, whether that be, again, the relationships you expose yourself to. And I said relationships because I want to include that could be family, friends, you name it. There's a lot of people in your life that might be toxic that are having a very strong negative impact on you. And those things all can interfere. I'm not going to say they're completely going to take you away from God, but they can interfere without you even realizing it. Sometimes you're being so consumed by all this other negative stuff, you don't even realize you don't have time for God anymore. You don't even realize you're not praying like you used to. Like, it can really throw things off. So you want to be mindful. It's not just being with the wrong man, it's also hanging around the wrong people. You know what I'm saying? And you got to take an inventory of the circles you're allowing yourself to be in. And again, the content, the food, everything that you're putting into your system, because all of it can contribute to throwing you off in that area. All right, so we got a few more to go. And these, I'm going to run through these a little quicker. So let's just get to it. So another price that a woman pays for being with the wrong man is many years of unhappiness and a lack of peace. All right. One of the things that you hear from a woman, whether it be she left a long-term relationship or even got a divorce. And again, I'm not here trying to glorify divorce. I'm hoping that people can work it out, but I understand the reality that many have gotten themselves in a situation that they don't belong in, right? But the point is, many, when they leave, they're finally like, I'm finally free. They feel like they have peace again. They feel like they have freedom again. They feel like they find themselves again. They feel a lot better. And again, please don't confuse that with marriage was the problem or relationships was the problem. No, being with the wrong person was the problem. All right. Because if they were with the right person, it would have gone a completely different way. And it isn't to say that two people who are together, who are right for each other, won't have some ups and downs, won't have some trying times. But there's a difference when you're with someone you want to work through things with versus the person you don't really like that. And you have less motivation to want to deal with all the things that will come at you naturally from being in a long-term relationship. But the bottom line that I'm trying to get at is so many women are living unhappy, empty lives because they know deep inside they're not where they belong and they're entertaining a man who's just not best for them. And I understand it's easier said than done. Like, I was literally out the other day and a woman, she recognized me and she said, thank you so much. Your work is helping me. I'm here right now with my narcissistic boyfriend. And I'm like, okay, why are you still with it? If my work is helping you, so I think my work is helping her realize she needs to leave, and it's helping her keep her sanity, but she's still having that struggle to take that final step. And in that moment, I told her I understand. I just wanted to give her encouragement, like, I'm praying you're gonna do what you need to do, that you're gonna find your way out of this. You know what I'm saying? But I get it. No matter how much information is given to some of you, there's still going to be struggle for some. I don't want that to continue. I want you to hear this and be motivated and find the strength you have within you to do what needs to be done. But I understand it's not always that simple. There's other factors at play that can cause people to take a little bit longer than they would like, right? But one way or another, you can't turn away from the fact that this is what needs to be done. All right. And you got to recognize that if you've been spending the last few years unhappy, that's a problem. Like, it's one thing to fight through an unhappy day, maybe an unhappy week, right? Maybe even, I don't really want to say a month, but maybe some people might make an argument for a month. I don't know about that. But the point is, it's one thing for a short, very short season of struggle. It's another thing for prolonged unhappiness, being miserable, struggling, and letting it deplete you and drain you and just take away your overall quality of life. That's just not worth it. And so hopefully, again, prayerfully, you don't find yourself in that situation. And if you are in that situation, you find the strength to do what needs to be done. All right, so here's another one, and this is a sensitive one for many, but we got to talk about it. Another price that women pay is creating an unhealthy environment for the children if there are kids involved. So, I'm not a believer in staying for the kids, okay? I understand why people do it. I understand the argument. I respect the desire to keep a household together and have two parents in the household and all these things. I feel you. However, what I know, what I've seen too many times is that if the household is unhealthy, you are defeating the purpose and you're going to create more problems than anything. So many children that I now coach as adults were once those children living in these unhealthy households. Some of these same grown adults come from households where they had the parents that were together for 30 years and everybody was like, oh my gosh, look at them. They're so wonderful. They're together for 30 years. Little did you know that they were going at it, like, not to laugh, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many untold stories of what's going on behind closed doors. And again, we're not talking about good couples having some ups and downs. We're talking about this was dysfunction. We're talking about this was wrong from the start. We're talking about people who are miserable, unhealthy, and it pours over into the children. And there's so many different things that can come out of that. One, consider this. If you are not happy, right? You are, let's just use the word miserable due to the relationship that you find yourself in and maybe feel stuck in. It's going to be very difficult for you to show up for your kids the way that you would need to or at your true potential. Many times a parent may feel like, yeah, I'm there, I'm present, I'm pouring love, and it's like, nah, you're not. And it's not to make you feel like a bad parent or anything like that. But again, for those of you, think back to your childhood and think about what you've experienced. Some of the negativity that you've gone through with your parents growing up was a pour over of their unhappiness and miserableness that they could not, basically, like, it's the whole hurt people. And so I always say, majority of the people that I've talked to who I've coached have had some kind of dysfunction or hurt with their parents. And whenever we look at the parent's life, whether it be the parent's childhood, the parent's marriage, whatever, there's hurt going on for them. They don't know how to deal with it. So naturally, it's like they get cut, they bleed on their kids. Plain and simple. And sometimes you're not even aware of how much you're bleeding. You're not even aware. The same way your parent may not understand the impact they had on you in a negative way, may not understand how present they were not, may not understand how they were always so grumpy, negative, critical, rather than loving, compassionate, understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't get it because they were so lost in their own feelings and inner battle of being somewhere they did not belong. And this just goes on, and the cycle continues. And that's why it's so important to understand, listen, if we're going to stay together for the kids, the goal has to be creating a happy, positive household. If that cannot be achieved together, then I do think there's going to be some scenarios where we have to consider going apart. Because I tell you this, I've on the flip side, I've seen kids who the parents separated, divorced, whatever, broke up, but because now they were able to create a healthy co-parenting relationship and they both have healthier households now, the kids were able to get through that. One of the things I've seen, and again, I'm not going to say this is the case for every child, but one of the things I've seen that the kids struggle with more versus the parents no longer being together is the confusion about what happened. So a lot of times you'll have this, again, I'm gonna use breakup or divorce because in today's world, we have some people who been together for years, have kids, and they don't actually get married, but then they still end up with a breakup, so to speak. But when that breakup or divorce happens, they were being sold, the child, all these years that these two people loved each other. And now all of a sudden it's done. That's confusing, right? That creates conflict. That creates stress. That creates resentment because now they're trying to figure out for themselves what went wrong here. Sometimes the kid will blame themselves and internalize the issue, right? And that's what's creating all these additional problems versus if they were actually told why this really happened, the truth, that could clear up a lot of that confusion and eliminate those issues from arising. But the bottom line is, you got to be careful because if that household is going to be unhealthy with kids involved, no one's benefiting from that. You got to figure out how we can get to a better, more positive, loving place or consider a different dynamic. One more reason why or price that a woman pays for being with the wrong man. Again, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but let's talk about it some more. And that's falling out of alignment with your purpose. So I had this quote before that says there's a lot of women who aren't walking in their purpose right now because they're dealing with a man who is wrong for them. And the reason why that would cause a woman or a person to be out of their purpose is because sometimes they're with someone who pulls them away from it. They're with someone that doesn't support it, doesn't believe in it, goes against it in some cases, all right? Or requires something out of them that then pulls them out of where they should be in focusing their energy. It's almost like if you were working for a company and you're just working at a job that, yeah, it pays the bills, but you're not really happy there. You're no longer tapping into what your true gift is because you're sitting here having to give your time to this job that isn't really for you, right? And so I kind of messed up with where I wanted to use that analogy, but the point is, if you're not where you need to be, you're not able to tap into what you're supposed to be doing, all right? And I've also seen so many relationships where because the reality is that a lot of people have not figured out their purpose before getting in a relationship, which again can contribute to why they get into the wrong relationship to begin with. And then what happens is they figure it out while in this relationship and their partner's not with it. And we can talk that talk and say, oh, well, no, if I found it, I wouldn't let anyone steer me away from it. That sounds good. But in reality, it doesn't typically play out that way. In reality, when you have a partner who is not supportive of it, does not believe in it, does not encourage it, all right, or flat out goes against it for whatever reason, more than likely you're not going to follow through. And another one of those moments hitting my spirit. I remember one time I was speaking in Detroit. This is many years ago. And a woman came to me after the show and she said, I've been waiting on God to send me a man. I don't understand what's going on. And she's revealed that she had this male best friend that they both have deep feelings for each other. They've expressed it, but he still seems like he's not ready and she doesn't know what to do. And she's like, she doesn't understand why God hasn't allowed this to now move forward. And I said to her, I said, well, maybe there's something God wants you to do that you have yet to get done. And I said, let me ask you, is there anything that you feel that's been on your spirit that God's been telling you to do? And she said, God's been telling me to write this book. And I said, well, have you written it? She said, no. I said, well, can I tell you something? What if God knows that if he lets you move forward with that man now, you'll never write the book? You'll never get it done. You'll get so comfortable in this relationship, you'll get so caught up in it that you will completely overlook what he's been pushing you to do this entire time. Maybe, just maybe, that door of relationship will open after you finish the task that he wants you to complete. And it's not just for the sake of completing it, because for all you know, it's a setup for the proper foundation so that you can have a successful relationship with this man. Or it could be someone else. I don't know. But the point is, it's very easy to overlook those steps. It's very easy to overlook our purpose. So it's not just purpose in the grand scheme of things, but it could be purpose in the moment. It could be purpose in the season. You know what I'm saying? And you got to make sure you're not getting blinded and overlooking that. So I always tell people, like, if you're waiting on God to send you someone, always be willing to ask God, what do you want me to do next? What's my task to get done? Because there's always work we're supposed to be doing. You know, and it's, again, none of us are perfect. Sometimes you either forget to talk to God about it, or, you know, it's just difficult going through those motions sometimes for various reasons. But I just want to encourage you, like, that could be a huge step in the right direction for you and start to open all kinds of doors, not just a relationship, but many other blessings to come your way. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on the 7 reasons why men pull away when things are going good. And you have to, as a woman, understand that when you are dating a man, one, make your standards clear. Make what you desire clear. Because the